asked you to send in your best edits and you delivered. So today, I'm taking on the hardest edits you sent in. My goal is simple: recreate them shot for shot, or admit I've been completely humbled by a follower. But that definitely won't happen because I'm the best editor ever. First up, we have this edit from Pocky Visuals. Well, we're seeing 3D camera, we're seeing 3D movement, and I'm guessing these 8 items are around a rig. Seeing a bit of chromatic aberration, a lot of chromatic aberration actually. We're seeing blur from the camera. This is going to be difficult, but I feel like we can copy this. The first thing I want to get set up here is the 8 pieces of paper around the rig. To do this most effectively, I've made a circle here in 3D. I've made it flat, and if I look at it from the top, then I can place my 8 pieces of paper around it. But we can hide that for now and just make our pieces of paper. And then we just want to add a grid. It's only subtle and it's just a light blue. Now, if we look at the original, the text is in Italian. Now, I'm not Italian if you can't tell by my pasty skin, but I can deduce, I think regola means rule. So we'll translate to English as best as we can. And it looks like it's like a basic Arial italic font, but I still like it. And I'm going to start writing my rules down, but mine are going to be more simple, and they're going to be my rules to editing. And he's got a nice handwritten font here. Then I obviously want to match the colors. And there's only one emoji I think describes autosave best. Now, around the perimeter of the circle, I can just move it, so I don't have to mess about with maths or anything, because I'm no good at maths. I'm a video editor. If we look at the original again, I know that there's 8 of the pieces of paper, so I'm just going to duplicate it 7 more times. See, I'm not that bad at maths. And now I've got these all open, I just have to change what number rule there is and come up with 8 different rules to editing. Let me know if you agree with the rules down below. The hardest part so far is coming up with good emojis for the rules, but it's going to get harder, I know that. Now I've got all 8 of my rules, but they do not look polished, so I'm going to add some things to it. It feels too perfect, it feels too rigid, which Pocky Visuals has deliberately made it not feel perfect, so I've just added a quick rough and edges here to give it that sort of paper tear effect. And everything on it adds like this real chromatic aberration-y feel, so I'm just going to add that. I'm going to make it red and green because although a lot of chromatic aberration is red and blue, it's not really going to work on blue text. Now the emojis have a lot of it, it's really sort of distance away, and there's a heavy shadow on them as well. And it's basically full opacity on theirs, which I do like. Now that everything is chromatic aberration up to the max, I think that means that we're ready to set up our rig, and that just means placing everything along the perimeter. It's actually a really easy process. I've never thought of doing it this way before. We want to be able to control the movement of all of our pieces of paper at once, and for that we need to set up a rig. We're going to select all of our pieces of paper and use the parent pick whip, attach it to the control. In theory, when we switch back to the default view, and change the rotation, they all move together. Now, my only problem with this, it's the same in the original, is you can see what the rules are in reverse from behind, and I think I know a way of fixing this. So let's test it out on rule number 4 over here. What I've done is I've duplicated it, I've added a white fill to it and moved it a bit behind so that every time it moves around you can't see what it is until... So I'm going to do this to all of them. And the reason this is important is because it's just distracting, it doesn't keep people interested as long because they can read ahead. It's almost like having the subtitles on a comedy show and you read the punchline before they say it and it just doesn't hit the same. You're not laughing, you're not enjoying it, you're just reading. It's just a basic sort of psychology thing. Because now look, as we spin round, nothing is being revealed that we don't want to be revealed. I love this. You can see it here, I've been experimenting with an inner shadow, and I'm not completely sold on it, but I do feel like it gives the whole thing a bit more depth. But that's going to be helped by having a blur later on. Now, I think it's probably time to add the camera. And now that we've got that, we just have to keyframe our movement. Look, I find this so satisfying, just seeing the movement and see it all come together. I'm going to go on keyframe assistant. I'm going to make sure that they are on easy ease. I'm going to go to the speed graph, select them all and give them this. This is what you see in a lot of Apple style animations. You want it really peaked up so that it feels like there's continuous movement even if it's subtle. One thing that I really like about Pockies is the feel of depth to the pieces of paper. I'm just going to create some subtle shadows here. When you see it here, it adds a real nice feel to the thing overall. I just don't think our text stands out enough as well, so I'm going to increase the size of that. And if you look at Pockies, no matter what you pause or focus on, there's always movement. So what I've done here is I've keyframed some movement on the rotation just before these come into frame, become the focus point, because they all feel like they've got a life of their own that way. But I'm imagining this like when all of Harry Potter's mail comes through the door and it's whizzing around, and the pieces of paper feel like they've got a life of their own. The blue here is too similar to the one above, so we're just going to make it a tiny bit lighter. And on second thoughts, I think the chromatic aberration is a bit more obvious on his, right? And last but not least, Pocky's is a really nice contrast on the background, and that's something I want to add, just so you know where to look. So what we can do is bring in a dark blue background. Now, I think we're done, so I'm going to render and we're going to compare them. Honestly, I didn't have a clue how this was going to turn out, because it's a really cool edit from Pocky. But after breaking it down bit by bit, step by step, I think I've done a decent job at recreating it. Either way, I'm proud that in about 2 hours, without using Google or any tutorials, I've tried to reverse engineer an edit that I'd be proud of making myself. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And then next up, we have this edit by Day in This House. I mean, I love it. It just looks so smooth. I love the colors. I love the integration. I love the graph. Let's get into editing it. Let's start off with our background. And it just seems like a very light, soft, purpley blue. Now we've got the shape. There's some very rounded corners on this, and you know what, I like that, because not many people go to the max on their rounded corners, but this is. I'm going to add the text first because I think it gives us nice visual hierarchy to start off with. There's a slight problem with theirs already, and that's that orders isn't in bold for them, so I've made sure I haven't made that mistake on mine. And then we'll just get the Shopify logo in. Now, I think that looks really clean. We're going to add our glows and stuff later, so for now, let's focus on this little graph graphic at the bottom. Now that I've got this here, I don't love it. If I go across the straight ones and just press options and click on them, it's going to round them out for me, which is going to make this all feel a lot nicer. Because the last thing we want for any edit, whether it's a graph or not, is for it to feel rigid. Let's focus on adding the glows and the textures and the vibe of the video before we end up animating anything, just so we get a visual reference. Obviously, we just need a strong outer glow on this, and because we're not messing about with 3D layers, it should be fairly self-explanatory to add this glow. It's just a very light blue here. And maybe even the slightest inner glow could really make this thing stand out. Now all we need is a simple white outer glow. It's very big, and we can just copy and paste that to our other bits of text. Now, as for the Shopify logo, obviously it's green. That's their brand color. So we want to make sure that our outer glow on here is as green as they come. This is what separates this edit from feeling bland and boring to feeling quite stylized and unique. There's also a heavy inner glow on this. This is our highlights. This is what's really giving it more of a 3D feel. Before we go any further, we want to add the stats in. That's what gives this edit context. I animated it in using Mr. Horse. You can do this using a text animator, but it's quicker if I do it with Mr. Horse, I'll be honest. I've also changed it from dollars to pounds because I am not American. Obviously, there is the movement of the shape and encompassing all that, but before that, we have one vital step, and that is animating the graph. Trim paths. Go from 0% end and we'll go to 100% end. We'll adjust the keyframes. Our Shopify thing bounces in as well. It comes from up top, bounces down below and overshoots. So we'll just do that now. If we look back at the video, we can see that the shape starts off as a small box. It raises up, stretches upwards, and then stretches out with a real like ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. Now I'm gonna be real with you. I'm bad at this sort of stuff. So this is a learning curve for me. What I do know to do is I know to frame the size of my object, and I know that at the start it's a box. As it raises upwards, it starts off thinner and taller, then extends into a box shape. So we've got the basic bit of our shape building out here, but it just feels a bit rigid. After a lot of messing about, I was like, it needs to go to a rectangle, to a square, then back to a rectangle. Keyframing a square in between just made the whole thing feel like bounce, 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 rather than like fluid. So here's how it looks now, so I'm really happy with it. I just need to keyframe this really. Now if you look back at the original Day in This House video, 4 pieces of a puzzle come in with really nice colours. I really like this. So let's try and recreate this. Nobody tells you when you choose to become a video editor that making jigsaw pieces is going to be like a real problem for you. That's not too bad though. We'll make it red for now. Maybe it's more cheese than jigsaw, but it'll do. Now, my understanding to make a jigsaw is we need to duplicate this bad boy. Flip them over 180 degrees. Okay, now we need to make the pieces that fill in. But that just means we have to do a little bit of correction. Now I'm messing about with all the curve points until my jigsaw pieces fit into one another before I can mess about with the colours, the lighting, the text within them. And in a roundabout way, I think I've pretty much got there. So if we watch it again, the text slides in with their piece on the jigsaw, and as they attach, it turns into a darker blue and has this sort of ripple from the middle. It's so nice, I love it. So first things first, let's work on colouring these properly. And that gradient is a very, very light, almost sky blue with a slightly darker blue. They've all got really strong inner glows as well on certain parts. Now some of these have a really nice soft feel compared to the others. I really like what I've done with it. And now it's time to add our text. And I will link this to the part that it's on. We've got our store, we've got our profit, and then we've got our ads. These all have a nice glow and inner gradient on as well, which I'm just going to add because it's a mix of a yellow and white gradient and then a soft light white outer glow. Now, I've got to say that looks nearly as good as the original. Now we've got to do the cool part, which is animating it in, and then when it combines, we need to make the glow. So now that we've animated that, this is how it looks when our jigsaw pieces come in. I'm pretty happy with that. And after adding some last finishing touches, I'd say I'm pretty happy with my copy. It was a difficult edit. There was loads of moving parts, but I think I've done a good job. Anyway, whilst you're here, why don't you watch another video? And if you did enjoy them, please like and subscribe. It really helps. Thanks.